Good evening, everybody. My name is Olga Nesterova, and welcome to the Lite Night. This episode is super special. In fact, it's actually entirely dedicated to Black History Month. I know February is winding down, but our movement is just starting. Tonight, we're going to talk about health and wellness and education and how we can fix things or perhaps make you think in a tiny different way. To help me talk about it all, I want to welcome the incredible, I call him superstar, Lyndon Winchester, who is the director of Hands On Inc. Please welcome Lyndon. Hi, Lyndon. Welcome to the show. I am so excited, honestly, to be talking to you today.
And Olga, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that I'm able to be present.
Yes, and I'm so happy we finally hit record because all our conversations are so amazing. So I'm like, how can we fit it in 30 minutes? Maybe we do serious, So I'm so glad that everybody will get to hear our convos now too.
Hopefully we can give them some amazing content, and they'll be excited to watch and learn from you. So,
Absolutely.
again, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. But we're here actually to learn from you because I am the one who, I immigrated from Europe. So I came here and I was like, a lot of things don't really make sense that's going on. And so I wanted truly to use specifically this month to educate people who maybe look like me or not like me about Black History Month, but also to explore, different subjects that we don't really talk about. Right. So you come from the world of wellness and health and fitness. So and we specifically last year and this year, we started paying more attention than usual, because I feel that when talking about fitness, we usually thought about beach body and looking great, whatever. But we didn't really think of it in the aspect of fitness. And first question, a lot of people really start thinking about working out, about going to the doctors and fixing things in their diet when something is wrong. So we kind of never talk about preventive medicine. So why is it so important to start this conversation?
Well, a lot of times what I've found, Olga, is that you're right. Most people, they don't take care of themselves until, something goes wrong.
Right.
And, at that point in time, when something goes wrong, a lot of times or most times it's too late because, I'll give you an example. A few years ago, my uncle, favorite uncle, actually, let me take that back. One of my favorite uncles,
okay. To be safe,
found out that they had stage 4 pancreatic and I want to say stomach or either colon cancer. And I was away on a trip. I was on a business trip. I was in Florida, and I get a call from my mom, and, she told me the news. And so, at that point, I had planned on, going out to Seattle and visiting my family because I hadn't seen him in some time, my uncle. And by the time I was able to even make the arrangements to get back, maybe about a week and a half had passed. And next thing I know, I find out, he's had a stroke. He's hospitalized in a coma. And then before you know, he's gone. And, within, like I said, within a week and a half of him finding out, that he had stage 4 cancer, because otherwise, he would have assumed that he was healthy. He was gone. And, what we don't realize a lot of times is that, these things are preventative. And so, we need to start looking at, the diets that we have, food intake, regular exercise. Those things are some of the things that we our lives are so busy now that we neglect, we neglect to think about these things. We neglect to talk about these things. Even, most times what I see is that we may know something's wrong with us, but we may be apprehensive to go get the help, the care that we need in order to, to prolong our lives. And so, that's a huge disparity that we have, especially in the, the Black community, African American community, people of color community, because we don't have a lot of access to, to things when it comes to, being educated about, health and wellness. A lot of times we don't have the resources, or we don't, have the ability to talk with health professionals about, preventative measures or things that we can do, to change our lifestyles. Because health is a lifestyle. Being healthy is a lifestyle. It's not just something that you pretend to do. It's a lifestyle. And, I think the ones that, have been educated, about a healthy lifestyle change, they see the immediate impact it has on them.
You work with quite a lot of people. Do they come to you when something is wrong and they feel let's fix it right now? Either they had COVID, they want to bounce back, or they want to, fix any issues. Like, for instance, I have permanent spine situation because I've been a dancer. So now everything hurts, my knees hurt, everything hurts. Or do they come thinking, I want to look better? So are people motivated by health or by looks most of the time?
So I get a mixture of both. At this point in time in my career, what I try to do is, to not overwhelm myself. I tend to, kind of limit, the people that I take on as clients, and we'll talk about personal training. So what I do is I'll assess, we'll get, online submissions, we'll get calls. And me specifically, what I'll do is I'll take cases that I feel, otherwise, would be challenging cases, right? So if somebody's just looking to lose 10 pounds, I may refer them to another trainer. Mm-hmm. If someone is looking to, make a lifestyle change, maybe lose 100 pounds because they're in a situation where, they have, health issues like hypertension or diabetes or something. Those are the cases that I want to deal with. The reason being is because, again, I want to help them to be able to implement a healthy lifestyle change. Years ago, when I was, I would say when I was first starting, health for me was about, of course, establishing a business. Of course, if you can't establish yourself, then it's hard to, maintain, and it's hard to, continue to grow a business. And, over time, for me, it became more about education. And I think, in my industry, a lot of times, most trainers, most people, they're not really about education. With a lot of times, like, for instance, if you go to a gym, most gyms, they have a system that they utilize. So somebody comes in, they want to lose 15 pounds, or they want to look better. Okay, so the trainer takes that information, they input it into a system. The system kicks back, some type of regimen, that, is generic, to that person that, they should possibly follow, right? Well, there's a lot more to that, so, there's a lot more to just working out. For me, I want to break down, maybe that person's, blood type. I want to talk about their genetics. I want to talk about their phenotypes, their phenomes, because this allows me, to dig deeper into the issues that they may have or the issues that may come up while we're training. And so, we can break that even further. We can go into, diet. We can go into, their genetic background. Things that we deal with a lot of times are genetic, and that could be something that's, hereditary, something that's passed down. Sometimes, like diabetes, is sometimes inherited and passed down. Okay. Now we can be diabetic, but a lot of times it may be inherited, and so there might be some things that we can't necessarily do, like type 1 diabetes. I know that's a genetic thing. That's something that's handed down. So maybe we can't avoid that, but when you can break down, somebody's actual phenomes and their genotypes, then you can start to address the issue. And, a lot of times when we're talking to our health professionals, they're not going to take the time to really do that. They're not going to take the time to individualize somebody and really come up with a specific plan for them, that's suited to them.
Right. Because I feel like people are compensated, professionals are compensated by the number of people they treat and not the quality they provide, right?
This is accurate, yes.
So you want to have, or not you specifically, but they want to have the quantity, right? So they treat it as business when it comes down to it. So when speaking of preventive medicine, we're not just talking about how to improve your or boost your immune system, because that's the biggest thing. Like people, oh, you got to take all the vitamins. And I took zinc like 3 days ago and it didn't sit well with me. So we're clueless. We want to do just the immune system. But starting working out and working with somebody like you actually digs into preventive medicine when it comes to actually the serious diseases, not just the immune system, right? So
Exactly.
in your opinion, does working out with somebody who provides that personal care, should that be considered as a part of that medicine that we all need, or the self-care package, so to speak, aside from just, ways of looking better, feeling better?
Well, yeah. Again, if you're working with somebody who takes the time to actually break you down, then yes, I think that's a very beneficial start. But a lot of times, like you said, there's so many professionals out there that are just looking at the qualitative analysis, and that's how do I make money out of this client? How do I continue to keep this client reeling off of me, so I can make more earning? And that's not what it's about. What I do, I tend to educate the client, because I don't want to keep a client forever. I want them to be able to educate themselves so that they can progressively do things on their own. And so we have especially a lot of times we'll have a certain time frame that we're going to work with the client, and we'll educate them until they get to the point of being able to do it for themselves. Because again, this is about making a lifestyle change, versus just trying to keep somebody weaning off of you.
Right.
When a cow is born, the mom, for a little while, the mom, will breastfeed the cow, right? But after a while, that mom is going to let that calf go, right? And then it becomes an adult on its own. And so that's kind of the same mentality that we have. We want to take steps with you so that you can educate yourself. And that's what's wrong with our health industry. That's what's wrong with our fitness industry, because we want what's happening in this industry is that you have medical doctors, or you have people that are doing things to keep that client.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's even with medicines. A lot of these medicines, a doctor prescribes something, and that's not really helping or treating the problem. That's making someone codependent on that treatment.
Right.
And so again, it's about educating. It's about making an overall lifestyle change to help people get out of these situations.
Right. Because I've seen so many professionals, maybe too many professionals in fitness industry thinking, oh, you need maybe 2, 3, 5 good clients. Like they treat it, if we talk about cows, like more like a cash cow, and then that will guarantee you some sort of income and you stick with that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a business perspective to it, but yours is, I think it's on a whole different level. So we're not even talking about that. But to bring the conversation tiny bit back to specifically this month of February, it is a fact that the Black community has been hit the hardest by COVID, right? And there's so many reasons for that as well. We talk about it, but we don't really talk about the core issues that caused it. So in your opinion, were there maybe specific health conditions that prevented people from naturally fighting the disease, and how could that be improved?
Well, I think there's several layers to when we discuss COVID. I think the primary issue is that African Americans or people of color had lack of access to healthcare facilities to be treated. Because a lot of times what would happen is these hospitals would get overwhelmed and they were turning people away without even without diagnosing them, without treating an issue. And some of these people tended to have issues that went above and beyond COVID. And so if you were someone that was diabetic, or had asthma, or had hypertension, or had just a slew of other issues, COVID emphasized those underlying issues. And so when you had COVID impacting your already challenged health, and then you don't have access to a facility to, take care of those issues, then yes, it does, impact our community a lot, in a broader spectrum than per se, someone else who has access to healthcare. We'll talk about, some of the, some of these other, even middle class got stressed by, by this disease. But I think what happened was it impacted us so fast, and so quickly that others didn't feel like it was going to impact them. And so it did not become an issue until, other races started seeing it in their households. And then they figured out, hey, we have the ability to catch this too. Mm-hmm. And so, that was, that's when the conversation, became, okay, we have to do something about this, right, because we have other, communities that are now suffering. And that became, that was, of course, our ex-president, it wasn't an issue. Oh, this is going to be fine until, you find out that, the president has it as well. And based on, reports now, he was in some pretty dire health.
Right.
And,
right.
And then, then now, then it became, serious thing. And, you start getting other professionals involved. But there was, especially in our community, there was so much misinformation. There was so much information. Oh, you just pop a vitamin C and you're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. Hey, just stay in the house for 10 days and then you'll recover from it and be gone. Well, we find out that, with COVID, this is one of those things that, it has a lasting impact on you. And right. So if you have a health issue, and again, you don't have access to, proper health care, then, we've seen the outcome, God forbid, a lot of people are resting in peace now, because, again, they just did not have the access. Right. So that's the unfortunate thing. I think that for African Americans, it's a historical thing. It's a thing where when all this came, it was a matter of us not trusting the health system already. But then when it turns around and you looked at, hey, you don't have access to something. And then on top of that, you can't trust a professional that may be able to give you help. Then, that impacts us, a lot larger. When, think about it this way, when you go to, other countries, they have free healthcare. And, when you come here, we barely have access to it, because either, we can't afford it, or either, we just don't get the quality of the, insurance that, can take care of some of these issues. So, then again, it goes to a financial thing where, hey, if I go to the doctor, I'm going to have this bill. Right. And then, it becomes, and right now with the economy the way it is, not only can you not necessarily afford a healthcare bill, but you have so many other bills that, that are piling up, your rent, and being able to eat and, these things. So that, that on top of, not being able to access certain things, it weighs down. It weighs down. And I mean, I'm sure we can talk and we can break down, the systematic things all day. But that's really what it boils down to, when you already, have to think about, well, if I go to the doctor, I'm not going to be able to pay this bill. It's going to go on my already, credit that, so those things really play a part. Something that, I really don't discuss, or I hadn't discussed in the past. My mother's diabetic. And, and my mother's mother was diabetic before she passed on when I was much younger. And so a few years ago, I got a call from my sister, and she was talking to me about my mom, and she was telling me, my mom wasn't feeling well. So, my immediate response was, hey, take her to the hospital, make sure that she gets to the hospital, that she can get checked out. This is not something that we want to linger. Don't wait until tomorrow. Please take her today. Right now, you know, my mom, she lives on the West Coast. My sister, they live on the West Coast. So I don't have quick and immediate access to them. And so, you know, the phone call, you know, of course, I'm the older brother, I'm the big brother. And, you know, so, you know, my immediate, again, response was, hey, get her to the hospital. Well, what happens, you know, again, my mom, you know, she was, I guess she was scared. You know, she was scared to go to the hospital. And so, you know, her response was, you know, I'll wait until tomorrow. I'll be okay tonight. I'll wait until tomorrow. Well, I get a call a few hours later, and so my sister ended up having to call the ambulance, you know, emergency on my mom. My mom passed out, and so she wakes up, of course, in the hospital. Well, what ended up happening was my mom, with her being diabetic, one of her toes was infected, and that infection spread through her leg, and so that, you know, that made her extremely sick. And, you know, what ultimately ended up happening was they had to amputate my mom's leg. And so they called, you know, the doctors. They said, you know, hey, you have one of two choices. You know, either you allow us to, you know, to operate, and we're going to take, you know, her leg up to her knee, or you're going to lose your mom. And, you know, immediately, you know, of course, you know, at that time, you know, I mean, you have to make a decision pretty quick, you know, and so it's either, you know, not have your mom, or, you know, or take her leg. And so, you know, of course, we decided, you know, to go ahead and have them amputate her leg. But going into that situation, it all stemmed, you know, from her initially being afraid to go to the doctor. You know, why? Because when, you know, people of color go to the doctor, one, they already feel like experiments. Okay. And so instead of her getting treatment for, you know, a toe that, you know, maybe if she got the right medication, they might have been able to save it. Who knows? But it initially started from fear. I fear the healthcare system. I fear my doctor. I fear the person that is providing care for me, because every time I approach this situation, or every time I discuss, you know, something that's going on with my health, you know, I become an experiment. And, you know, that's unfortunate for anybody to feel that way. But, you know, especially when, you know, it's personal and it hits home, and it's your mom. OK. And so, you know, originally, you know, I didn't know where my mom was coming from, because for me,
it's a new generation, right?
Well, when something goes wrong, I have no problem going to the doctor and saying, hey, listen, you know, whatever. And so, you know, but I had to, you know, look at where she was coming from, what her perspective was, what she has gone through already, you know, being in the system. And so, you know, prior to, you know, she would go to the doctor and get poked on, you know, stuck, and you know, and those things, you know, after a while, I mean, it takes a toll on you. And so, you know, again, you know, she ended up, you know, losing her leg. Now, for me, that was a very challenging time, because, you know, mentally, I didn't know how she was going to take it. I didn't know how she was. I mean, you know, you wake up and you're missing a part of you, you know, and so, you know, that was a very testing and trying time for me. But when I was first able to talk to my mom after she had the surgery, she showed me her strength, you know, and, you know, her strength inspired me, you know, because, again, like I said, you know, she woke up and she's missing a part of her, and that she didn't make the decision to do, right? And so she wakes up and, you know, she talks to me about God. And so, you know, again, that set a tone in me that, you know, took me in another direction when it came to, you know, my career and the way that I approach and the way that I think about health, you know. So that was a story that I haven't shared with many people, but I'm glad that, you know, I'm able to share with you. And that kind of just, you know, hopefully that gives the audience, you know, some insight on, you know, on why, you know, people of color have issues with, you know, going and seeing, you know, health professionals and things like that. You know, I hope that, you know, that resonates to someone.
I'm first grateful for you and that you're sharing this with us and you feel comfortable doing that. I'm honestly truly grateful, because I feel, aside from us seeing your strength and seeing your wisdom and seeing your, tremendous energy when it comes to life and the purpose behind what you do, I think this discussion, especially this, what you just shared, answers all the questions we wanted to discuss today, because it includes everything from the mistrust, from systematic racism when it comes to, health industry. Specifically, it comes from lack of education, because perhaps times have changed, and perhaps, see, you saw this situation from the aspect of, somebody who's an athlete, somebody who had to work with doctors before and knows, yes, there are different doctors now, but yes, that mentality that is with us, so to speak. I can only, I come from the place where I seek knowledge and I want to really understand people so I can understand how to help. I know that COVID has hit my family, and I have family members who, in the worst situation, didn't want to be hospitalized because they grew up in the Soviet Union mentality. I don't want to go to the hospital. They're going to kill me there. This was the phrase, literally, up until it was late, So, and I totally can understand that, because when you live in the country where you're born, where you're living, this is your only home. And you know that if something happens, if you have to rely on somebody with your life, you have mistrust, and they might do something to you because they've done for too many, years to too many people. So why would that go different? And I think, right now we're all dealing with the next step when it comes to vaccines, right? And I see a lot of people having issues. For me personally, like, it's the same thing when the new iPhone or whatever comes out. I don't want to buy it right away. I'm going to
no. Yeah.
Let's wait a year until somebody explodes with it and then they fix it,
Hey,
So,
look, I still have iPhone 8. So,
it's a 10, but I keep it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, my thing is, I'm reading about it. People have different reactions. Maybe it is popularized. Maybe media tries to scare us or misinform us, or not to go into detail. As wise as you are, as knowledgeable as you are, as we all know by now, what's your take on vaccines? And what have you heard maybe in your community, sports people in education who work with that?
Well, my personal take, I've been hesitant myself, to get the vaccine, and but that's based on what I've heard from other health professionals. I have a peanut allergy, and so I have a certain allergy that you could take us out very easily.
Right away.
And and so they were saying that with this particular vaccine, if you have allergies, it's best that you wait. And with any trial, I think that again, initial conversation, initial reports from the media and previous health professionals was, hey, it's going to take some time for us to get a vaccine. Well, we got a vaccine in 11 months, which happened in record time. And, they said that that's something that has never happened in the past, because they say normally it takes about 2 years for a vaccine to be put through trials and, to be tested on people and, and then be put out into the public. Well, with the vaccine, being that rushed, I have mixed feelings, because I do have a lot of friends and health professionals that have already had the vaccine. I have family members that have already had the vaccine. My grandparents, they just finished their second dose this past week. Mm-hmm. And, and so, but again, with me having an allergy, there may be certain things with that vaccine that trigger, my allergy, and, and so I don't know. So there's been a lot of mixture. I think that, as time progresses and as they come out with vaccines that probably have a better percentage or a better, percentage of, because I think right now it's 81% or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think that, I may be more open, to doing it then. But again, I had, based on my colleagues, based on my immediate, friends and people that I've spoken to, they've been very excited, to get the vaccine. And I think the media portrays it a little bit differently. The media makes it out that, hey, we're afraid and, we don't want to participate. But that's been vastly, the wrong, that's been vastly wrong or incorrect in my community, because again, I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and he's a bus driver, and so he was like, listen, as soon as I can get this vaccine, I'm getting it. I'm excited about it, and because hey, I'm exposed to a lot of people, and I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to be afraid to do my job, and that's a lot of people's positions. They want the vaccine because they want to build up this immunity, and they want to be able to to not be afraid or be in fear to walk outside anymore. And again, even my grandparents, they called and asked my opinion, but hey, they jumped on board. They're like, listen, we're up in age, and we have somebody, so there's nothing for us to think about. We're gonna do it. We're doing it. And then, again, I have, other friends that are in the health community, and they're like, listen, it was a no brainer for me. I took the first dose, and, I might have had like a little, headache or, maybe some soreness in my arm. But when I got the second dose, I was fine. And so, but now I think that, there's what is it, Moderna, or is it Johnson? One of the companies came out with a single dose, And so that shows you that, the first vaccines were extremely rushed, because you have to have 2 doses. And
right.
then, you have to, keep one at, sub-zero temperatures and things like that. So, those companies, they didn't have enough time to, to properly, roll this thing out. And, their vaccine was a little bit more rushed than per se, this single dose, vaccine. So I'm going to waste some time. But I do think that, others are very open and very ready to get back to, their way of life.
Right.
So yeah. So, most of my colleagues have decided that, hey, we're doing it.
Yeah, because people want to go back to working and, not just surviving, but striving, right? And that requires us to be among people. And I think the latest what I've heard literally yesterday was that now they think that vaccine would be required every year, kind of like a flu vaccine. So because on one end, antibodies disappear, and so you need to constantly do it. On the other hand, politically speaking, if you start producing vaccine, you need the demand for it, right? So then there comes the business perspective, and I feel like if it's balanced, that's one thing. But if what we literally discussed earlier, when it comes to health, to fitness, to medicine, if you think that business perspective at some point prevails, that's when the problem starts, right? So.
Well, look at it. Even talking about it that way. Look at. What companies really prospered, during this time. Hey, it was healthcare. It was these biological companies. They stock markets, shot up. Their stocks shot up, and while everybody else is failing. And so it's a profit-based business. You look at who's distributing now. Walgreens, Publix. Some of your grocery stores. So these people, profited off of this situation, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, politics are politics. Even going further back, and us looking at the real issue, of this being able to be prevented. There was a time where there was some rules in play that could have prevented it from even getting here. And, we had people that, were stubborn and, didn't believe in the sciences, and, hey, this is where we're at now. And, and it's unfortunate because we lost so many people, based on a political game, We lost so many people on a political game, you know.
And I feel that, speaking of previous administration, it's the very best example of, the need of being careful who to vote for. And who do you select? If you like the persona, you like the drama, you like the reality TV aspect, this is one story, but then to each, his or her, their own. Find the profession that works for you. So I'm speaking as the United States, chose somebody who was entertaining, and what we got was entertainment. And COVID became so politicized. When I talk to people from Australia, I interviewed the wonderful woman from Australia, and she says, what the hell is going on? Canada, what the hell is going on? Why is it, you have to be a Democrat to wear a mask? Why does it really represent your political party and your views if you just protect yourself? So this was very unfortunate, but we rarely connect politics to health and wellness industry, but it comes actually, one leads to another, and electing officials is, I think, the core part of it, because they do represent our needs, and they fight for it or they go to Cancun.
Right. Yeah.
Or they care for themselves. So how do you think we, the people, meaning we, the people in different communities, for instance, you are in Atlanta, Georgia came through this election, and specifically African-American community that helped to elect who we have now. How do you think, can we do it? And also, why is it so important to care who do we elect in, even on the local level?
Well, I think local level politics is the most important for states. We'll go even further when it comes to issues that pertain to people of color like myself. You saw this year, the Black Lives Matter movement, becoming bigger than it's ever been. And what people don't realize, it became a situation where, it was politics over lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that should never be a situation that anybody has to deal with. It's already tough enough, to be an individual of color. But when you have politics that are feeling things, it becomes pretty devastating, right?
Right.
And I can give you an example. Right outside of my building is where a lot of the marching and I don't call them protests, because I don't see them as protests, but a lot of the marching to the state capitol and to one of the media outlets out here happened right in front of my building.
Mm-hmm.
I did participate because I thought that, and I still think that it's very important to be able to voice ourselves, to be able to voice our frustration with the system. And what most people don't realize, at that time we had a spokesperson, right? The last administration, we had a spokesperson that did not speak for people of color. Okay, we were excluded from the conversation, and it's very unfortunate because this person is supposed to be a spokesperson for all of the people. Not just one type of person, not just one party, but a spokesperson for all of the people. And we continue to have situations that stem from a long time ago, but we had situations that were emphasized during this time in regards to us being killed, and so it became a point where it was happening, and it was swept under the rug, right? And so that becomes very frustrating at a point in time. Locally, a lot of times what people don't realize is that the policies that are in place do not come from the upper levels of government. It comes from your local levels of government. So some of the the policing issues that we have, that's a local issue. That goes to your governor, that goes to your mayor, that goes to your police chiefs, and that level of government. That goes to your community government, that goes to, your councilmen and things like that. And, and so, yes, we should have had a spokesperson that, that spoke to those levels of government. But it was very eye-opening because, once people realize that they have the power to make a change, in regards to who speaks for you, they went out and did it. They went out and made a change. So it became a social situation that blossomed. People started communicating, via Instagram about, when people were going to congregate, to march. It became a situation of, hey, this is the local person that voted this way, and who has made this an issue. So let's get them out. And you had people that really came together, and they really felt that, hey, it is a time to make a change. Things that we may have been immune to, or things that we may not have known were issues, were spotlighted, and I think they were addressed. Do we have a long way to go? Yes, we do. But we at least started the conversation. We at least, got people to open their eyes and see what was really going on. And so, Georgia was one of those platforms. Georgia, the world, was looking at Georgia, to see what we do, because for a long time, Atlanta, has been a place, that, has, we have a lot of forward thinkers. We've always been, a forward moving city. And so, we impacted a lot of other communities in regards to, how they addressed their localities. So, I'm thankful that, we had the leaders and the leadership, to be able to, to make a change.
Right. And if you remember those election maps on TV when they would like zoom in, there was at some point I was afraid they're going to zoom in on me in pajamas, but they zoom in, and if you look at Georgia, mostly it was red, and then you see Atlanta that was blue, and just because it had more people in it, right? The citizens.
Right.
It elected the Democratic senator, or voted for president that way. But it just shows that, creating those hotspots, because Atlanta, whoever I interview for either our program Black Owned or whoever, people from all over the United States end up in Atlanta. Now, Atlanta is the buzz. I think New York lost it now to Atlanta. But it's so many people who are progressively thinking, right? They end up there and create such a powerful community too, when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to any sort of businesses, and you see so many different fun things popping up there too, which is so important. But when this whole thing, insurrection, whatever trial, and I'm thinking there and sitting and thinking, how do those senators vote? But then ultimately, who votes them in? And that's where it comes back to your point. The states vote them in. So do you want your representative be there and just act in his own egoistic interest, the way previous administration acted, right? Or do you want to represent the state? And I think that's where it comes down to. But you work with the new generation, right? So you work with a lot of athletes, and I've seen your social media videos, and I'm like, oh my God, that's impressive. I'd be scared of those guys because they just look powerful. But do you see that them seeing the world maybe in a different way? We talked about generations, right? We're not like our parents were or their parents. Do you see them actually having a different perspective when let's start with that first. Do you see them seeing the world in a different way? And then I have a follow-up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a difference from my generation to the generation now. It's like an instant. It's an instant thing, right? So they use social media, and so they see things more instant than perhaps we did. We had to rely on the news. And we had to rely on, on one person speaking up for us, right?
Right.
This generation, they talk, they speak, they voice their emotions, they voice their opinions, and it's definitely they have a different way of thinking, when it comes to I'll give you an example. So when I was growing up, I played sports, right? My coaches, they would tell us to run through a brick wall, okay? And once they told us to do that, we would do it. We would do it, because our coach told us to do it, okay? Mm-hmm. I coach high school athletics now. I coach football and track. And so now if, me as a coach, if I ask one of my athletes to run through a wall, they're going to say, well, coach, what kind of wall is it? Is it metal? Is it brick? Is it wood? Why do I have to run through it? Why can't I go over it? You know what I'm saying? Now they'll still run through that wall, but it's like they're more analytical, and they're going to take a different approach, in regards to in regards to how they do it. So I think this generation is extremely different, because again, they approach every situation with thought and emotion, and they're not afraid to speak out and speak up. If something isn't right, they're going to let you know, and the immediate access, the immediate gratification that comes from that, I think fuels, this generation, mm-hmm. Even when it comes to, the athlete now, we had to work for results. When I was coming up, we go in the weight room, we would train. These athletes now, they say, hey coach, well, I want my calves to be big immediately, so it's just different. They see these instant results. And so, in a lot of ways, I respect and I admire that, because, again, they go after what they want, and not to take anything away from any other generation, because we did the same thing. But again, it's just they do it in a different manner.
I feel, main difference here is that the new generation is not afraid to ask questions and mm-hmm. ask why is it that way, right? Because they were never punished for asking questions. Right? And also they have access to information. If you go on Google, they might Google which wall is the best to run through. And then, hey, coach, I think you're not right, because then we have access to education, information, so people can seek and do things, right? So they see it in a different way. We probably had to go read something, right? They just
absolutely. We had to go find a book, go rent it from the library, and it took a lot of time for us to get the information that we need. Where now again, you have instant access. Now, whether that information is accurate or not,
yes,
that goes into a different conversation, but you have immediate access to information.
Right. Yeah. But do you feel, so having said that the generation is different, they see things differently, they also approach it in a different manner. Do you feel that the educational system is adjusted in the right way, or did it stick to the old mindset, so to speak?
Well, with the education system, it's challenging to answer that question now, because of what we're going through, because everything now is virtual. Mm-hmm. I think that this is one of the easiest times, for, because I tell a lot of my athletes all the time, there's no reason right now for you not to have straight A's, especially if, you're not, in person in class, you're communicating with somebody over a screen. You have all this time to get your work done. Mm-hmm. So, it's a different time for me to be able to answer that question. I think that the education system is changing in regards to, the material and the information that is presented now, because now students have access to challenging the information that was presented before. So, what's in your textbook? Now you may read your textbook, but now you have access to challenging that information, because this information in this textbook may be inaccurate or outdated, mm-hmm. Even when it comes to, discussing, Black history, we're in Black History Month now. And, when I was growing up, there were only a few people that we talked about, when it came to, Black history. We talked about, of course, Benjamin Banneker and Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. people like that. But now you have the internet that shows you that there's so many other pioneers, that help, the landscape of America and the country. And so, you look at now you have access to looking at, African kings, that had vast empires and things like that. And so those weren't things that, I was being taught in school, but now, again, this is information that is being provided, because you can't hide it. You can't hide it, and so I think that's the empowering thing. This is the first generation where, hey, they had a black president. When I was growing up, we didn't even think that way. We didn't even know that was a possibility. And so now, you're in a different dynamic where you've had, people that have, been in positions of power, and people that have done things, ahead of you. And so now you can strive for those things. Now you know that it's a possibility. Now that you know that it's accessible, so that changes the way that you think, And again, it makes you not, afraid of what's ahead of you. You can step in faith and with confidence, knowing that, nothing can stop you.
Right.
Whatever you desire, you can go get it.
And it's super exciting too, because, now you feel like if you want to read a book about Black history, you can find an African-American author who will tell you about that. So it is reliable, at least in my sense, right? I want to talk to somebody who is genuinely interested in providing legitimate information, right? Not painting in the way they want me to understand it, right? Like there are many books, and we featured one company on our Black-owned series that, they specify on providing a platform that is only about Black history, so you can find many sources and find about Columbus and it was here before him, right? So like a lot of, I think, mindsets are breaking if people want to, if they're, strive to learn something and really kind of understand that what we learned before is not really accurate.
Right.
If we speak about change, and a lot of conversation now in media is about unity. And of course, I grew up in Europe, so we had the Second World War, everything that had to do with it. So we understand how to sort of deal with that. It's difficult here when people were, and I'm talking about white people, always in a comfort zone, never truly challenged. And now, why do I need to step out of my safe space and learn something? Like, you want to unite with me? Come to me, unite with me. But it actually has to provoke action. So when it comes to media, when it comes to maybe education or the system itself, which changes would you like to see? Or in your opinion, how can we strive to this unity?
The easiest answer for that is, I think that we have to understand one another. It all starts with understanding. If you have, a preconceived notion, or, for years you've learned, one culture is a certain way, but you haven't verified or you haven't witnessed that yourself, then that keeps you distant, right? But when that narrative changes and, you see that, what you've been taught for a long time is incorrect or inaccurate, and you start to get to know those people, then you can bring about, the change that is necessary, to unify, us as people. Again, even if we talk historically, if we talk biblically, right? We know that, apparently or obviously we came from two people, right? It's Adam and Eve, right? So if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if whatever denomination you are, you have a basic understanding that we came from two people, right? And so when you have that understanding of that idea, one, there should be no racism, two, there should be no difference of people. And so, this idea of racism, or how racism came about, it obviously started, a while ago, a long time ago, because you had, a certain set of people that wanted to conquer another set of people, right? So, but if we go back and we think about, the meaning of love, if we think about, the meaning of, equality, then we'll begin to, to understand, how we unify, as a people. But I think the conversation starts with love, and self-love. Those are the two things, and understanding and education, about another person. Those are the things that, will create the conversation to begin unity, with, going even to, the Black Lives Matter. It was inspiring, to see people come together because, they saw our plight, they saw our struggle, they finally recognized, hey, the shit that's going on is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, unified people, even from other countries like, hey man, this is wrong. This is not something that's
seen it all
happening.
over. Yes.
Mm-hmm. We have police over here that don't even have guns. They carry a flashlight. That's it. We don't have these problems over here. So why is, America, why is one of these, global powers, why are they struggling with this issue? Okay. I'm not saying that racism doesn't occur everywhere, but the level of, how we are approached with it is just, it's devastating. And there's not a level playing field at all. Because, there was a point in time where we couldn't even speak up, because if we spoke up, hey, what would happen? We would get locked up, or, we would get beat up, or, we would disappear,
Mm-hmm.
So, unity, it starts with love. It starts with education. It starts with, the basic understanding of people and where we come from, where we all come from.
Right. And I feel that, we, the people, or everyone, individual, is responsible for our choices, not in
Yes.
what we eat and what we do, which is important. We discussed it, but also what we think and what we act upon, right? Because media will always be there to provoke us, to
Yes.
make us tune in 24/7. That's their job. They have to be addictive. They have to be like fast food. They have to be addictive. Whether it is important and useful, not really. Everything in moderation. Same with fast food. You want to have something, okay. But if you just tune in to CNN or Fox News, regardless, at some point they will own you. So own your own opinion, right? That's kind of like the idea behind this program. So, I'm so grateful that you shared with us your knowledge and, of course, your personal story that pretty, added this importance to everything that we're discussing here. So I'm truly grateful. But most important question here. Can you tell us a little bit about hands-on personal? I know there is a story behind it, how you created it, and what you do and how we can support.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So, hands-on personal was designed and started with the person in mind. And the reason why we came up with hands-on personal is because we wanted to provide a personal service that was ultimately specifically for an individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're creating a personal service, that means exactly what it means. It means it's personally suited for that specific person. Over the years, of course, that has strengthened. Our goals have strengthened. But what we primarily focus on is wellness. We focus on health. We focus on the personal aspect of you. And so services we provide are massage therapy, personal training, physical therapy. We do nutrition consultations. And things of that nature, but the entire scope. It started as a concept. It started as a dream, and ultimately that dream has fruition. We have been blessed to work with several healthcare companies, Emory and Georgia Tech, a lot of the radio stations, V103, and so I think that my company came at a time where health was a primary focus and a primary need. I tell people all the time, I didn't create a concept that wasn't already there. I think that, for me, it's like social media. It was something that, happened at a time where it was much needed, and it kind of just spiraled and took from there. So I can't claim all the credit. I can only, I can only appreciate that I've been used as a vessel, to, discuss and to help people change their lives. And, that's the primary thing is I've helped, my company has helped, the people that work for my company have helped change lives. And, and that's the main, thing that we've strived to do. We want to impact, others. We want to make sure that, people make, healthy lifestyle changes that last a lifetime, and so, that's a little bit about us. That's like I told you, before, it's a little bit, it's challenging for me to speak on myself, but, I'm glad that, my company has touched the lives and the people that we have. I'm glad that we've had the access to help. I'm glad that we've had the access to educate, and, God willing, we will continue to do this, for forever.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, and your website is Hands On Personal Inc. I know we mentioned this in the notes. So if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, go to the notes. You can just click there and go right away. The website is awesome. That's the very thing I checked. I was like, oh, wow, okay, they're doing things. And then I realized it's Atlanta. I'm like, a little far. Okay. And
well, listen, but we have access. We have a network of people all over the world.
Wow.
So our headquarters, we're headquartered in Atlanta, but we have a network of people all over the world. So, don't think that you're limited to, not having access. I mean, and then nowadays, look, we have internet, we have, you can always, Zoom, I think, is a big thing during this pandemic, and Microsoft Teams and, things like that, and Facebook Live. And so you have all these platforms where you don't have to hesitate to reach out to us. We can make ourselves accessible to you.
I love this. This is amazing. I love this. So when we go to Instagram _Lyndon W, so there we end up on your Instagram. Your Instagram is hot, honey. Okay, so we're gonna go there. Your Instagram, you in all the glory. So go there, follow, and also visit the website and share, because I feel that, specifically this year, everything is virtual, and I know people maybe have limited resources, but sharing, reposting, talking about it is not limited. So please do that. Go and spread the news. Honestly, I'm just so grateful for this conversation, and I know we're going to do more. We talk about it once we hang up here, and just Godspeed to you and everything you do and will be doing.
Well, Olga, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your platform. Thank you for having me. Again, I hope that this conversation sparks someone in some way. It doesn't have to even just be about, health, but I just hope it sparks, additional conversations. And again, thank you for having me, and thank you for your platform and allowing me to, partake.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
Thank you.
Now, wasn't that an incredible conversation? I'm so grateful to be talking to Lyndon. As you see, he found his purpose. And as they say, everybody has two lives. And the second one starts when you realize you have only one. And so I encourage you to start those conversations with your friends, with your parents, with your kids, with your neighbors, your colleagues. Seek a different perspective so you can build your own opinion. And we're here to help you get educated, to help you get inspired and broaden your horizon, because that's how we start to make this world a better place. And we can, one conversation at a time. So I wish you a very safe week. I wish you a good night. And we see you here next Sunday on Lite Night. Stay well.